Good evening. I'd like to call the September 22nd, 2020 work study session to order. I'd like to point out that this meeting is being hosted through live stream on the city's website and by teleconference for public comment. To accommodate public comment during this meeting, we've made temporary changes to the agenda that were necessitated to comply with COVID-19 directives. Deputy City Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes, here.
Councilmember Percival?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Here.
Mayor Brown?
Here. We will now move to the public comment period. Deputy City Clerk, do you have any electronic comments submitted to be read aloud for this work study?
No, Mayor, there were no electronic comments submitted.
Okay, are there any members of the public participating through teleconference that would like to comment?
There are no members on the public line.
I don't see anyone in the audience, so we will move into our study session. City Manager, are you delivering our staff report on this?
I will, Mayor. Thank you. Good to see everyone tonight. This item, I think, originally started maybe a month and a half ago, related to a different route related to the Hemet Christmas Parade. Maybe it was a few months ago. That really required a separate conversation related to, given the COVID restrictions that we are currently under, although we moved into the next tier, which we're all very happy about, we need to be very mindful about whether large-scale events will be allowable in the next few months. It does take a significant amount of time to coordinate the Christmas parade or any sort of event, so we want to be mindful about any sort of planning that we do take on, that we need to make sure that we have enough time to plan, organize, and then obviously roll out the event itself. So that's really what this work study is about. There we go, got it. So the city has historically organized an annual Christmas parade where community members from local school bands, cheer teams, community groups, and various other partners come together to host a parade for thousands of people who join from throughout the community. The parade is our community's opportunity to unite, celebrate, and participate in one of the most significant events of the holiday season. Prior to working at the city, I'd been told about this event, and I'd been told about the number of people that actually participated, and the first parade that I participated in was just amazing. And I think everybody that's a part of it knows just how many people it brings together and the fun and the energy that's associated with such an event, which is really a gem and a highlight in our community. These two pictures that are up on the slide are from the 2019 event. You'll recall that we had a little bit of inclement weather that morning, but still was a great event. So given the current COVID-19 pandemic, we do find ourselves in a little bit of an issue. So amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and the variety of restrictions in place, staff requests that the council consider the circumstances surrounding exposure risks, restrictions on students from our local schools, and the general public who will be eager to celebrate as a community. So balancing some of these issues include balancing the public health, obviously wanting to encourage community pride in an event, the safety of staff, because it does require a significant amount of staff to put this on. So we want to be mindful about the numbers of our staff that we do have involved in putting this on. And then limitations on participants. I did have a chance to speak to the superintendent of Hemet Unified, and I was told that any sort of band participation or cheer teams or any other school participation on this is not allowed given the COVID circumstances that we do find ourselves in. I don't know if there are any other limitations on other community groups or community members, nonprofits, but I do know that the bands and the various cheer groups are a part of this event. This is really structured. At least our goal was to have a preliminary conversation about feedback, maybe ideas, different concepts that the council might have, or whether there's other direction that's given to the staff to undertake this item. We had some conversations with the executive team over the last few weeks related to the criteria, the information related to participants who are individuals who would not be allowed to participate or can't participate due to the various restrictions. Some of the key elements that we think were very important to our initial conversation was the need to involve the community, whether that's in a different manner that hasn't been done previously. Be mindful of any sort of COVID restrictions that probably most likely will be in place through the end of this year. Needing to protect our employees. I did have some discussions with our labor groups about this, wanting to be mindful about the potential obstacles that might get in the way and the potential risks associated with having a significant number of people together. And so we want to be mindful of our own employees. And then finally, limitations imposed on schools, students, and community partners. So that was really the challenge that I posed to the executive team. And for the last few weeks, we have talked about this and opportunities, options, and ideas moving forward. So given those constraints and the box that we find ourselves in, we had some preliminary conversations that we wanted to share with the council in terms of concepts. And again, these are just rough ideas taken from various other types of events that have been organized before in other locations. The first concept that we talked about was having a community-wide holiday decorating contest for homes and or neighborhoods. And so we would want to involve as much as possible, whether it's HOAs, neighborhood watch groups, various neighborhoods, and really create a competitive atmosphere and pit communities against one another, residential areas against one another. We could fold in businesses if that's something that the council was interested in, and really create competition amongst our groups. And we could go through some sort of formal process of having individuals have their address provided to the city. We create a map and encourage people to drive by and take a look and really identify these throughout our community. Another element of that could include individuals that submit their pictures of their homes that have been decorated and having the community vote on which they think is the top one, and identifying what prizes could be donated to acknowledge the championship house, or whatever you want to call it, and acknowledge them. The second item is a concept where we would need to definitely fold in some additional partners. The concept on this is to have a drive-through holiday-themed event where residents can drive through in their vehicles through a designated space and see various holiday decorations put on by staff, businesses, community groups, and others who may be interested in participating. So this concept would require a significant amount of space. We would identify a pathway that cars would travel. We would have an ingress and egress, obviously, and make sure that each space that's been allocated has enough room to set up whatever displays that would be presented. We'd have some conversation with the staff, and we believe that public safety vehicles are always a big draw. And so whether it's decorating a Bearcat or other police vehicles, fire trucks, I know that we've got a vintage fire truck in our inventory. Those are the types of things that might lend itself to things that community members might want to see. I know that in years past, the old fire truck had been decorated and had been put together and decked out. So that's an opportunity that we felt had some value. And then finally, any other ideas that the council might have, whether there's in here any community comments, but really open to what ideas the council might have or direction on, forming a committee, a group of individuals that might provide some additional comments, concepts, different ideas to really bring this together. I think the key part of any of this is clearly identifying key partnerships. Some of those key partnerships would include the Chamber of Commerce, Valley-wide. We've talked about some preliminary locations that might accommodate the second concept that that I just talked about. Might want to fold in HOAs when it comes to competitions for houses or different neighborhoods, various neighborhood groups, whether that's neighborhood watch groups or others, and then the school district. A key element of this would be communication, so we would want to get this information out on as many channels as we can, through Channel 3, through our social media avenues, and then obviously through our word-of-mouth partners and other organizations that provide a network of individuals that we would want to tap into. And then also, we probably want to spend some time talking about the organization of the event. I know in years past we've had an individual take the lead on managing the Christmas parade. We may want to think about that too, having someone organize these concepts and bring them home. A lead person really helps in smoothing out the different partners and the different groups that get folded into these types of events. And then the last thing, obviously, throughout every step of the process, whatever event, we move forward with being mindful of the public health issues that revolve around these types of activities and making sure that we're following best practices related to whether it's social distancing or making sure that masks are worn, those types of things to make sure that when this event gets put on, that we are being mindful of the public health and making sure that we're taking care of the residents in the community at large. So that was my brief presentation. Happy to get any input, discussion from the council in terms of next steps, ideas, concepts, and really bringing this home because Christmas is not too far off in the future. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that walkthrough of some options. Comments from council?
Linda wore a red shirt just for this occasion, huh? It's never Christmassy already, are you? It's never too early to get ready for Christmas. I have my eyeglass cleaner is red also. So here we go. I like some of the ideas you have come up with. And I would hazard a guess the last time the Hemet Christmas Parade was canceled was probably during World War II. As so many of the things, the race parade, the Mona pageant, all of these things, class cancellations were because, am I on? I'm on my side. Okay. Because of things out of our control, as is this. You know, the good things, with any luck, we may even be in yellow by the time Christmas rolls around. However, it's the preparation that takes all of the work, not the actual day of the parade. Now, traditionally, we have had some of these things before, that the Jeep Club always decorates their Jeeps and go on their little cavalcade trip around town showing off what they decorate. We had the fire trucks from, I don't know if it's Banning or Beaumont Museum, that decorate themselves and come down and travel around through town. So those types of things are currently going on. I like the idea of neighborhood or house contests, because we've got some people that do more than wear a red shirt to decorate for Christmas. In fact, I've had some acquaintances of mine say they started decorating when they got quarantined back in March. So I can only assume that there's a vast number of people that would jump into this with no hesitation whatsoever. The key, of course, to it is to make sure that a map is distributed extremely well. Bob Pratt was an independent writer for the Press Enterprise, and every year people looked forward to him publishing the the decorated houses maps that went on in the valley. But I also like the idea of getting the school district and the chamber and different businesses and things involved in this. If we could safely decorate our parks, that would be awesome. But then we run into security issues and how many blow-ups and how many lights are going to get stolen on the first night out. But I think this is all worthwhile for conversation, and I would like to see school campuses decorated, have a contest between school campuses and different businesses in town. I think anything to really generate that spirit. But also, I think we really need to have something that happens on December 5th. And that is traditionally the Christmas parade for Saturday in December. And while we have a small city tree down on North Harvard Street, and one on top of City Hall, which I always giggle when I see, because I think it looks kind of strange. We really don't have the big tree. Well, we don't have the big tree in Weston Park anymore. So, and I don't know where we would go with having something special or what it might be actually on December 5th. It would be nice to be able to have a Christmas in the park, observing social distancing, however, or whatever that happens to be by December 5th. But I really think something needs to be done on that day to kick off the season. All people do turn their lights on the day after Thanksgiving. That's when I start to get mine out of the garage. But it's that type of spirit. I think the community as a whole, including San Jacinto and the county area, I think everybody's going to be very, very much looking forward to being able to say, you can't stop me from having Christmas. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but on this, on one of your slides, I took this as, and maybe this is the wrong language, but one of the things you described up here, the drive-through holiday theme event. When we've traveled, we've had different racetracks. They will decorate and have people drive through, and it's all decorated. I'm thinking of this as, and maybe this is what you're talking about, kind of like a reverse parade. Yes. We're not moving, but they're moving. Yeah. And I think that's a great idea. I think is that what you're trying to say up here? Or?
That's exactly it. And I've gone to different events where they have exactly that. They use a racetrack, and at least in the one that I went to, they didn't have it necessarily on the racetrack, but they have pretty big parking lots. And so it meanders throughout the parking lots, and that's the concept right there. Just geared to more of a community versus just lights and attractions. Folding in the community side of it as well.
And the other thing is, things are constantly changing. And people still need human touch. Oh my gosh, yes. And I think that there are people going through some serious issues in our community because of lack of socialization. People of all ages. Yeah, it's affecting everybody. And I think, just the idea of getting in your car and seeing other people is fantastic. I think what could be even better would be to have an actual event where you could walk in a park or walk down the street or whatever and actually see real bodies that are also enjoying and mixing and mingling. I don't know the logistics of that, and who knows where we'll be by December 5th. I would say definitely we're going to be yellow. No, orange. Because Newsom has said there will never be green again.
In his
And
world.
I quote him. And I'm not going to add the expletive, delete it after that. But I really do think we need to work towards something of human involvement in celebrating. And I can see, like, if we did some sort of, if we had this concept of reverse parade, that could be the city's responsibility. And other groups could, like in the past, how there's been those like markets in the park and hot chocolate, and that wouldn't necessarily be our event, but if other people wanted to host those coordinated on the same day, then it would just be a day of celebration. That might be something nice for the chamber to head up. Not that I want to give Cindy any more work, but I mean, it is that thought process, and even length of. We have a new RCTC land now next to. There you go. And the buses, RCTC loves, they have trolleys that they decorate and bring out for parades. They will decorate even the 40-passenger buses and put lights all over on them and do things to add to, quote, a parade. But, just small things, even if it was some of the smaller streets downtown or some of the parking lots of the big box stores that hung lights from post to post, and it just is something that's absolutely necessary just to keep our civilization going. And we've done all the talking down here. Now we can turn it down to you guys. If you come up with any better ideas, then we can play them. Go on, give it your best shot.
Want to get a word in edgewise?
So speaking of Mr. Bah Humbug, so I think this concept is good. There needs to be a parade. The Rose Parade's canceled.
Yeah.
So maybe this can be an event that we can get advertised that we could end up benefiting our community by getting people here. People do need to get out, and I think people are tired of being cooped up. It's been over 6 months, and people are smart. People are responsible. Most of them. Most all of them. I'll give people the benefit of the doubt. So it's. I think something needs to be done. I think that maybe the city could be the support, and maybe have some outside groups be the primary, and we're here to provide some logistical support or some background support to be able to get something off the ground. I mean, I would be happy to help. Because Christmas is the best time of the year. So, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, something has to be done. We need to do something, and it should be done sooner than later. But I like the concept. I mean, I think a reverse parade is kind of unique. There's community groups out there already that they publish the list of where the houses are in the neighborhoods that have all the festive lights, and so people are already driving around. I think maybe, we can maybe take that to the next level, I guess.
All of these ideas are good. The suggestions, I really think some compilation of different parts of what has been proposed already is very possible. We already know, without any governmental interaction or encouragement or anything, there are some neighborhoods that just go all out, and they do it out of a sense of their community spirit in their own neighborhood. So we know those things are going to happen pretty much automatically. So to maybe facilitate more of that, I think the concept of some kind of competition is good, and I would go so far as to say maybe have different categories. You could have residential and you could have commercial. That would get some of the businesses engaged in maybe wanting to do some kind of competition. So you can have different levels, and the competitions are always good when you have a lot of winners and not just one winner or two winners. So I know that the HOA that I live in, we don't do it every year, but we have several years had a home decorating contest, and there are prizes like gift certificates for restaurants or those kinds of things. So that doing something like that certainly could engage the chamber with their involvement. I do like the idea of a reverse parade, and when I read the staff report, my mind's eye picture went to the Diamond Valley Recreation Area as a potential area where people could set up, and we could direct people, not only provide the maps where communities are decorating and encouraging drive-throughs, but say that the city-sponsored one is at this location, so don't forget to go through here. One thing that I think is possible too is invite service clubs to participate, and especially if we have a designated location for a reverse parade, invite the chamber to have some participation, and service clubs could do, Kiwanis could do one area, Rotary could do another, Interfaith Council could do an area. So I think there's a lot of possibilities that we could incorporate a lot of the different suggestions that staff has come up with and that we've kicked around here tonight. So I wholeheartedly agree. We need to do something. We don't have a crystal ball to tell us what color tier we're going to be in December. So I think whatever we plan probably would be worthwhile having a degree of flexibility based on perhaps more relaxation of restrictions that could maybe allow for people to not only drive through but park and walk through. That could be, a plan A, plan B type of thing. So I'm all for doing something, and I think we've hit on a lot of good ideas.
One more thing, like you were saying, it would be really cool if we had a holiday calendar, because instead of having just on the 5th could be the kickoff, but every weekend there could be things going on from all these different groups to encourage community involvement, I mean, it could go all the way to New Year's, and then maybe I would cut down on our fireworks.
Right. And along that line, in the calendar, we could say, visit your commercial areas, and these are the list of participants that will be engaged in this on these 3 days or these 2 days, whatever might work, and then have residential. We know that the Jeep Club's going to be out there doing it, and if we can get them involved in maybe some of the coordinating, because they've already been there, done that. They've got a route planned out, and they have been doing this for a number of years. So I think engaging a club like that would be a good idea to, maybe put them in some kind of a leadership role.
On a lighter note, if we call it a Christmas protest, we will have the green light to do anything we want. Just saying.
I'm biting my tongue. Added to that, and I don't know if this could happen, but a golf cart parade down Florida Avenue could have fire trucks and police cars in front and backs to protect golf carts, and God knows there's enough golf carts in this valley, and they're easy to decorate. And, we would just say, park along the street, stay in your car, or, whatever color we are at that point. Just to do something like that, because that takes less effort organization-wise than, getting floats and marching bands and drumming.
Well, something to keep in mind in that regard.
Because you guys do that, right?
We've done that, and we've had, as many as 45 golf carts start out. And a lot of them, because they're using their golf cart batteries to run their lights, by the time we get down, we end up with, about half the number that we started with. So if you're going to do something like that, you'd want to keep in mind a very short distance to have them drive, or have some provisions for picking up dead golf carts.
Do it as a golf cart / tow truck parade.
Yeah. But that's another thing, because we do have a lot of communities that have golf carts and you know, Hemet West and Seven Hills, a lot of those people have golf carts, and they could do their own thing. And as Carly suggested, maybe have different calendar and say, on this date, you know, go to Seven Hills because they're going to be cruising around in their golf carts, and on this date, you know, it's, you know, you'd obviously require the gated communities to willingly participate and open their gates so that people could cruise through there. And I know that invariably you'll have pushback from people saying, I don't know about opening our gates and letting people drive through, but I think
I just see people that say they don't want a well built.
Right.
Just saying.
so but I definitely think that involving our public safety departments on those occasions where there's movement through, having them leading and trailing is a good idea, addressing the public safety. That aspect of public safety, not health safety, but traffic safety.
Public Works, the people at Public Works are very adept and very knowledgeable about streets and flood control and where the electricity is and all of that good stuff. So I think the engaging those key community groups is essential. And I keep visualizing all of Harvard Street from Acacia all the way up to Latham, or actually Devonshire, as being a canopy of lights over the street and carriage rides. We had that one year until the horse ran away. Seriously, I mean, it was not funny, but we did. We had carriage rides downtown, and thank God it was close to the end and not many people around, and the horse got spooked, took off and damaged the owner and the cart.
When staff was discussing this, has anybody reached out to Stephanie that, because she's historically been involved in a lot of this?
No, these were very preliminary conversations. We didn't want to get ahead of anything that the council might think up. So we didn't, you know, I had some preliminary conversations and told some of the community partners, Valleywide, Chamber, hey, you know, we're bringing this forward. Just, you know, I didn't want them to be surprised by anything that might be stated here. So I did get it on their radar, but that's as far as we've gone. We haven't had any conversations with anybody else.
My question is, we don't have money in our budget to hire like we used to. Our special events is zero.
Correct, and I believe the only funding that was allocated was just, and it's not direct funding, it's just services from staff members that go out and set up.
Signage.
Yeah, signage and all of that, in kind, if you will.
So are you looking for this to be like a volunteer ran, or you want to hire somebody? I mean, what exactly do you need from us next?
So if the council prefers to have, because I heard, I think Councilmember Percival, and I forgot which council member it was, but stated, you know, they want a city event. One thing that the city would do, whether that's on the first Saturday, just to kick off the season. And if we want to do that, then it really depends on how big we want it to be. So if we want it to be something like a reverse parade, I would suggest that we probably need to have bring in partners to see if there's willingness to do that. And then at that point, if there's any volunteers from any other organization that would like to take that up. If not, then we probably need to talk about whether we need to pay for someone to take on that responsibility.
I would do it in a hot second, but I'm a party patroller.
That was a shameless plug.
I could do it. Oh, then I could do it.
My recommendation was that the city take like a support role and have community groups take the lead.
I think that's probably.
Because I think there's plenty of them out there that would.
There, and there's some real good supports up there. If you pull in the faith-based community, because I mean they are so big at participating in the Christmas parade that I think maybe instead of building their floats and having their 500 people in their group, like the Dwelling Place and 412, and I mean some of these churches have huge memberships, and what they throw into the parade, if they would willingly donate some of that sweat equity and whatever else equity in building something for a reverse parade on the 5th, I think would be, yeah, it's the same amount of dollars and energy for the most part, and they don't have to walk a mile and a half in a parade.
Signups as
Yes.
we already have.
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
we've got all of the information from past parades on participation. So I think that would be awesome.
If the council prefers, they could also appoint a council member to be kind of a liaison with that project, whether it's one or two council members that are assigned to, helping shepherd that through and bringing people together. That would be an option for the council as well if the council desires.
I heard Carly volunteer.
Did everybody hear the winners? We tried not to be obvious.
Carly will wear a green one.
I'm willing to.
I mean, like
to help.
like you want us to coordinate it.
Just help coordinate along with whoever Cindy and
Yeah.
I think it goes a long way when you have a council member that's able to convey the community-wide kind of vision that the city is interested in achieving. I think there's value in that. If it so happens that a council member wanted to take the lead and organize it, I mean,
Still a citizen of this community.
whatever the council prefers. I know that one of the first things I told the E-team was, I'm not the imaginative type, I'm not the creative type.
you got a burgundy tie on. I mean, hey, that's close.
And so my concepts, you don't want to see my art forms. You just don't.
Don't say you're the Grinch.
No, I actually love Christmas, and so my house is
There you go.
always.
I really think some manageable ad hoc committee, certainly involving, at least inviting Stephanie because of her history and all the contacts she has with all the participants. You don't want to forget the importance of that, and certainly whether it's Cindy from the chamber or her designee, somebody from the chamber, probably somebody from the faith-based.
Probably not even a list that we make up. We would just throw it out there and say who's in on this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of controlling who's there, just who's in.
Throw it out there and
Yep.
see who shows up.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the more people that are willing to pitch
Absolutely.
in will be perfect. Mm-hmm. That's what it's going to take.
I just the only cautionary note coming from a city that had a citizen committee-driven 4th of July activity. Sometimes it can get unwieldy when you have so many people. I'm reminded of the definition of a camel is a horse designed by a committee. So certainly you want the people involved that want to be involved, and we don't try to ramrod that too much. Just facilitate it more than anything else. And I wouldn't want to intentionally exclude somebody if they're motivated and interested, but it could be a little unwieldy if it gets too large.
So how about this? Because if we do a reverse parade, we probably need to identify a location. I think Valleywide might be a key partner in having a location. So what I can do is have a conversation with some of the big partners, see if there's interest to partner up, and then if the council would like to send a group of individuals that they would like to attend the meeting, we can have kind of a workshop or a community session with some of those groups and lay it out and then kind of go from there, and then have a council member liaison that is involved as well, if that's what the council desires. We probably can identify whether or not there's interest for an outside agency to take the lead and do that if there's willingness. But I think the first part would be identifying kind of a location, seeing if there's willingness, and then kind of getting those things squared away, if that's all right with the council and if that plan works. And then, stay updated as required.
One more thing, usually the mayor picks the theme, so make sure you think about that.
That's the mayor's job.
You don't have to tell us tonight, but
Tell us soon.
you're
How
worried
about-
about somebody taking over? Look,
Yeah, how about,
Don't say
How-
COVID-19.
I was going to say that the Grinch 19.
It could be a virus. You're kind of it.
Yeah, I'll give that some thought.
I believe there is a book or a file at City Hall giving the themes past 25 to 50 years. Parade themes. Sometimes they really haven't even been Christmassy, but they've been patriotic.
Certainly wouldn't want to risk being redundant.
No.
Okay, so what I have is we'll reach out to some of the key partners that might be instrumental in identifying a location or maybe potentially taking the lead on it. We'll reach out to them, see if there's willingness on their part. Well, then I'd like a list from all the council members in terms of anybody that might be interested to attend, whether it's informational, so that we can get information out there. And then the mayor will need to select a theme and then just start working from there. And then if there's any hiccups on any of those steps, then we'll obviously need to come back and regroup and all of that. So,
right, and if you find, if a community group steps up and says that they want to take the lead on the entire thing, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay
I mean,
with that too.
I would love to do it, and I like to do that stuff, but, we're not lacking for things to do.
We like to throw in our opinions and our ideas.
But I'm okay with, like, if somebody else wants to take the lead, then go for it. But you have that option so that you can.
If you need council people to throw at the situation, you've got Carly and I.
okay.
Not to be thrown.
And if we choose to do multiple aspects of this, like the decorating contest, we could certainly ask the chamber, would they want to be involved in organizing and judging businesses that participate in that aspect of it? And then, so we have not only the reverse parade, but we have a number of things going on, and I think Carly's idea of a community calendar
Awesome.
that identifies what's happening and where is a great idea.
Okay, absolutely. So I've got my notes, I've got next steps, and then we'll make sure to keep the council apprised as to what the progress is and any other items that we might need. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that concludes our work study, so we will recess until 7 o'clock regular session. Thank you. Good discussion. Good evening. I'd like to call the September 22nd, 2020 regular City Council meeting to order. I'd like to point out that this meeting is being hosted through live stream on the city's website and by teleconference for public comment. City staff is at an off-site location participating through video conference. If you're joining through teleconference, please mute your telephone to prevent noise interference until your turn to provide public comment. Due to the structure of this meeting, I'd like to remind council to have their microphones turned on and positioned so the audience can hear. Deputy City Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Here.
Sorry. Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Councilmember Percival.
I'm here. I'm still here.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa.
Yes, I'm here too.
And Mayor Brown.
Here. Thank you. Tonight's invocation will be delivered by Interfaith Council Representative Jan Despain. After which I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, guide this meeting tonight with your holy presence. Help all here to focus on the business and concerns that require wise and just decisions for the betterment of our community. Enlighten our hearts and minds to create a spirit of respectful listening and dialogue concerning the issues here tonight. We ask for a healing in our land as we struggle to deal with so many difficulties that have challenged us in the past few months. We pray for a greater sense of brotherhood and love of country as we seek to navigate these difficult times with courage and generosity. With grateful hearts, we thank you in advance for the good that will be accomplished by your people working together this evening. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. Higgins. Next on our agenda is item 10, communications from the public. There is a temporary 2-minute per person time limit for all general public comments on non-public hearing items. All who wish to speak, including council members and staff, need to be recognized by the mayor before speaking. Members of the public shall comply with the adopted rules of decorum, resolution number 4545, a copy of which can be requested through the city clerk's office. You may also fill out a form and submit your comments online at www.hemetca.gov/councilchamberlive, and your comments will be read aloud. However, submittal must be done before 2 p.m. the day of the meeting. For those who wish to join by teleconference, you'll be able to do so by calling 888-585-9008. When prompted, dial 768-176-038. You'll be asked for your name prior to speaking. And a reminder, if you're joining by teleconference, please mute your telephone to prevent noise interference until your time to provide comment. Remember to state your name and the item about which you're speaking. After the conclusion of communications from the public and public hearing item, public teleconference line will be deactivated. Public is still encouraged to watch the live stream at hemetca.gov/councilchamberlive. Moving on to item 10A, public comment for items listed on the agenda. Deputy City Clerk, are there any electronic comments submitted to be read aloud for consent or discussion items?
Yes, Mayor, there was one electronic comment submitted from Patricia Ann Gregory. It's for the Measure U audit. The comment states, Hemet City Ordinance 1918 requires an annual audit of the Measure U funds. The ordinance also requires the Measure U Oversight Committee to review the audit each year. It appears that neither the city nor the committee has complied with this ordinance. I've asked for and received revenues and expenses for the Measure U fund through FOIA. Unfortunately, the calculated balance of Measure U funds from the documents I received does not seem to match the beginning balance of Measure U as stated on fiscal year 2021 proposed budget. It doesn't come close. I am asking that both the city and the committee comply with Hemet's own ordinance, not for a 2-year period as the city manager suggested, but for the entire 4-year period to date. And to clarify, the numbers for Measure U revenues and expenses are found in the CAFR as listed under the unaudited section. It is also my understanding that the city manager's job is to implement the city council's policies. One such policy, Resolution 4731, sets out the obligations of the city in its financial management of Measure U funds. End of comment. There are no other electronic comments submitted for items on the agenda.
Are there members of the public participating through teleconference who would like to comment on any consent or discussion items?
City and the financial management will be in comment. There are no other electronic comments made for items on the agenda. Are there members of the public participating through teleconference?
I've unmuted the public teleconference line if there are any members.
Hearing none. Are there members in the lobby who wish to speak on items on the consent or discussion items?
Yes, Mayor. There's one request to speak from Eric Gosh.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. As Chair of Measure U, I wanted to respond briefly to item 13A. I think that's an appropriate time now to talk about that briefly. That's the letter that the Measure U committee wrote to the. Can you hear me? Wrote to the council. A couple points. One is that first of all, the Measure U committee, nor apparently the city, was provided the opportunity to review any audit of previous years in those previous years. Former City Manager Alan Parker never gave us any notice that there even was such a thing as a CAFR. I know audits. I have had many audits of my company at my request, but didn't know that this actually existed. So really it was this first year that we actually knew that there was such a thing as a CAFR, and an audit was done every year. Fortunately, we've seen it and are happy to know that it is being done. Secondly, according to the resolutions addressing, I think, the point made in that electronic comment, is that apparently an audit, the word audit, it's a formal word for from CPA, is not available on a general fund item like a Measure U. We can do an agreed upon procedures, but not an actual formal audit. So we're happy to have an audit, or have to have a review, agreed upon procedures. I believe that's been signed, Mr. City Manager, and that it's in the process of going forward.
It started.
It has started. We decided to start with 2 years, the current year and the previous year. The committee authorized Vice Chair Cosman and myself to interview and get bids. We received 3 bids. We interviewed the top 2 companies we liked from those bids, and we chose RAMS, R-A-M-S, Roger Scott somebody, to conduct the agreed upon procedures, both revenues and the expense side. That's ongoing right now, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have answers on that. We didn't do the previous years because we wanted to get the current years done. Should anything happen, or any questions or desires at a cost of about $8,000 a year for an audit or for a review, we'll consider obviously doing previous years as appropriate. So we have moved forward with that. Apparently Measure U cannot pay for, although we're happy to, in the committee standpoint, pay for the cost of the audit, or the review, I should say, to agree upon procedures. I'm not sure what the legality of that is. That's beyond our scope and knowledge. We'll rely on the professionals deciding whether Measure U can or should pay for that agreed upon procedures. But we wanted to get it done on a very timely basis because obviously it's very important to everybody. It's got to be done quickly. So it's undergoing, it's happening, and I want to reiterate that this happened in June. In our June Measure U committee meeting, we said we wanted to have an audit, even before we heard the word CAFR. Well, not, I agree, I'm using the word audit, and I mean an AUP. So we initiated this before the mistakes came out in the CAFR. I called Mr. Ken Poon personally, and I know well what mapping means. Mapping, and he told me, mapping means that their computer program in the Excel spreadsheet picked up the previous year's ending balance. It picked up the left-hand column versus the right-hand column. That's where the $4 million difference came in. It wasn't anything magical. It was a computer program making a mistake. Should it have been caught? Obviously. In my business, when mistakes are caught, you look at them and you say, this doesn't make sense. Last year it was 11 million. How come it's 7? Should be 11. And we correct it. The city found the same mistake. They corrected it. I don't believe any money was actually lost or taken or misspent or misallocated. I don't think anyone thinks that Channel 3 has $5.5 million in its account. That's a silly number for that kind of balance. We're moving forward with that. We look forward to future audits. We look possible to moving back previous years. There's only one previous year we're not looking at really, 17-18. And that may be a possibility depending upon, the results and the situation there. Happy to take any questions or anything on Measure U.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other speaker slips on consent or discussion items?
No, Mayor.
Okay, moving on to item 10B, public comment for items not listed on the agenda but within jurisdictional matter. Deputy City Clerk, do we have any electronic comments submitted to be read aloud for non-agendized items?
Yes, Mayor, there was one electronic comment submitted from Melinda Fusesi. Dear City Council members and City staff, I am concerned resident. My name is Melinda Fusesi. I am concerned about a proposition coming out in November. That is Proposition 16. Proposition 16 permits the government to discriminate based on race and gender. This is clearly illegal, and we request our elected officials to take a position against it. Oddly, supporters of Proposition 16 state that Proposition 16 benefits people of color in education and government contracting. But where is the language in the proposition that says that? Instead, the proposition merely eliminates the California Constitution that says you cannot base on gender or race or gender. That is the reason why the residents of the city are against Proposition 16. We must stand against racism in all forms. End of comment.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public participating through teleconference who would like to comment on non-agendized items? Okay, hearing none. Do we have speaker slips for a live audience who would wish to comment on non-agendized items?
Yes, Mayor, there are several requests to speak. The first one is Charlene Gravitt, followed by Michelle Sims. Okay, so the first comment then will be from Shirley Sharp.
Hello. My name is Michelle Sims. I live at 1295 South Costin Avenue, Hemet, California. We're known as the Mountain Shadows RV Resort. I submitted a letter, and I'm going to be summarizing that letter for the viewers that are here today. We're owners at Mountain Shadows RV Resort, MSRVR. It's a travel trailer planned community developed in 1984, and it consists of 525 lots that we individually own, along with all improvements on those lots. 2 years ago, 400 plus complaints were filed against our community by one disgruntled lot owner. These complaints were being turned into violations without due diligence by the city to confirm violations exist prior to issuing the violation to the lot owner. Most of the complaints were proven to be false. After initial complaints and violations were proven to be false, the city inspector repeatedly returns, re-inspects the property, and finds a minor non-life safety issue. Excuse me, I can't breathe with this. These inspections are a result of unverified and fraudulent complaints. The majority of our residents are 80-plus years old on fixed incomes, suffering many medical issues, and are being told by city officials to produce permits for work that was done over 30 years ago. The city is already in possession of most of these permits. The city inspector states he doesn't have the time to validate a violation exists before issuing the citation to the lot owner. The complainant filed the same complaints to the fire department. The fire chief, along with city inspector, began what he called life safety inspections. Out of 120 inspections, no life safety issues have been found. Violations are minor and consist of violations such as label your pedestal with the lot number or label breakers. The fire department is not basing its inspections on life safety issues as they asserted. The inspection list given to the association omits complainant's lots as well as lots belonging to complainant's friends. City inspectors are issuing violations without citing any applicable regulation or specific code section, leading to confusion by lot owners as to the legal basis for the violations. City and fire inspectors are inspecting pedestals and property without lot owner permission or warrant and without citing legal cause. This has resulted in severe stress and financial hardship for many of the lot owners. Our community's reputation is ruined because of the perpetual years-long inspections that give the appearance that our resort is riddled with electrical problems and illegal construction. This has resulted in great harm to lot sales in the community, and your prompt attention to these matters would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm going to take this down because I can't see it, fogged my glasses up, so bear with me here. I'm going to cover some things. I'm going to try not to duplicate what Michelle already said, but you may hear some duplications here. My name is Don Gravitt. I reside at Mountain Shadows RV Resort, and that's 1295 South Costin Avenue in Hemet. Mountain Shadows RV Resort is one of the nicest upscale resorts in Hemet, dedicated to travel trailers, motorhomes, and park models. We own our own property, and in many cases we use Mountain Shadows as a home base because many of us still travel as we're retired and trying to enjoy the retirement years. So I think you guys can appreciate that. Because of the limited time frame, there's a number of homeowners here from Mountain Shadows, and they're going to hit specific issues. I want to just set the preamble so you understand what we're here for. Bear in mind that as we get older, our filters tend to wane, so we may get a little excited or a little upset. Bear with us, please. You'll understand when you get to our age. Within the last 18 months, we've had a disgruntled homeowner who has turned in numerous complaints to the city offices. I'm going to use 480, that's a round number, for the first batch, and then 400 for the fire department, filed with the same homeowner. Unfortunately, the last 400 were filed under fictitious names, so you'll have to guess as to who they were filed. Let's see here. And I got my notes too, so I can remember things. Let's see. Please understand that most homeowners in Mountain Shadows are seniors, and many have lost partners or loved ones and live month to month on fixed incomes. We're not hardship cases by any means, but we're not wealthy either. We try to take care of each other. If many people there are single, we try to look out for each other. So this issue of the inspections has just created havoc with their lives. Mountain Shadows has a architectural review committee, which I was on for a number of years, so I'm fairly familiar with it. Work for any of the homeowners' lots is submitted. We review it for compliance with the park rules. We also try to review it for needs for permits. If there's a permit required from the city of Hemet, we stamp it as such, and we demand that the contractor or the homeowner go to the city. Upon receipt of those permits and verification of those permits, the work is allowed to proceed. So we do have a vested interest in our park and try to keep it to the best there is. I would invite any of you to come out to Mountain Shadows. We'd be happy to show you around and see what the park is. It is not a trailer park, and that may be one of the misconceptions, okay? Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Larry Blank. I'm a resident of Mountain Shadows RV Resort, located at 1295 South Austin Avenue. I came here tonight, as the other people that already spoke to you, to address some concerns I have as a homeowner at Mountain Shadows. Due to one disgruntled homeowner who thinks it's her life and privilege to complain about everything in life. Everything about the park is just causing havoc, and it's uncalled for. And I'm surprised that the city even raises an eyebrow about what she's saying. The city Hemet building inspector showed up at Mount Shadows RV Resort with pre-printed violation forms with Mountain Shadows RV Resort information on it, as well as a list of the suggested violations you choose from. Most cited non-permitted construction for things such as decks, awnings, and utilities and storage sheds. These are not required city permits and should not be hassled for not doing that. No attempt was ever made by the city staff to review city records to check the validity of the complaints prior to the violation being written. My opinion is the city of Hemet has an obligation to perform their due diligence prior to writing a homeowner violation, putting the burden of proof on us as homeowners. I think there's a better way to spend our tax dollars than doing what you're doing now. I don't appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Blank. I'm a resident of Mountain Shadows RV Resort, lot number 472, located at 1295 South Costin Avenue, Hemet. I would like to present some facts to you all tonight regarding City of Hemet building and safety and City of Hemet fire inspections that are being performed in our resort. These inspections are performed as a result of a disgruntled homeowner filing an excessive number of complaints. Many of the violations were related to minor or trade practices relating to electrical work. No electrical codes are ever referenced on a violation. Items listed as violations include no lot number listed on the electric pedestal, even though it's already on the front of the house, as well as on the storage shed. Loose ground wires were a very common write-up. These ground lugs were on the outside of the pedestal box for use of television and phone. A specific situation on lot number 1 was the loose ground connection was for an abandoned telephone and TV cable that was less than 12 inches of copper wire outside the pedestal. These are just a few examples of many violations homeowners are experiencing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, and thank you for hearing us tonight. I think probably the best thing I could do is just kind of read a statement that I have here in front of us.
Your name, sir?
Pardon me?
May I get your name, please?
Oh, Paul Bowman, I'm sorry, and live at 1295 South Costin, Lot 128.
Thank you.
And due to some of these just outlandish complaints filed against us, we've started this whole rigmarole of coming down. And one situation, a homeowner observed the building and safety inspector sitting in a city truck in front of the house for 30 minutes. After which time the inspector came to the homeowner's door, at which time the homeowner was handed a violation by the inspector. I mean, how can you figure out what's going on by just sitting out in front of a house and spending some time? After reviewing the violations, the homeowner came to the conclusion the inspector never performed any due diligence in researching city records for permits for modifications done by the home prior to sitting in front of his house. That's kind of odd to me. He immediately called the homeowner immediately called the City of Hemet Building and Safety and requested copies of the permits. The very next day he received an email from the city staff with every permit attached pertaining to each violation he was written. This is not acceptable and should not be allowed to continue. It was an apparent violation written directly from the homeowner complaint filed. And I want to just say that so many people in this park, I mean, you're in your 80s, your 90s, you have no income, and you have somebody just filing hundreds and hundreds of complaints with no base. And these people do not have an income coming in to just chase whatever they're accusing us of. And it's extremely stressful for these older folks in here, and we need to come to some kind of conclusion how we're going to fix this. So, anyways, I want to thank you for your time, and I also want to say that I thank you specifically for the great police department the city of Hemet has, and I want to just encourage all to support them to the ends of the earth. They are wonderful and great. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I think we concur with that.
Good evening. My name is Jan Bowman, and I'm representing Mountain Shadows RV Resort. I live in Lot 128, located at 1295 South Costin Avenue. I would like to share with you all the stress being put on homeowners as a result of the City of Hemet Building and Safety and the City of Hemet fire inspections that are being performed in our resort. Prior to the closure of City Hall, due to COVID-19, the owner of Lot 24 went to the city to obtain copies of the permits relating to her lot after receiving a violation written by Brett Long. She was told by the clerk working the counter at the building department there was no need to review the documents relating to her lot because if she had that violation form, it meant the inspector had already checked the city records and found no permits relating to the property. The homeowner left frustrated, but did not stop her attempt to obtain records. A couple of days later, the homeowner returned to the building and safety department. Upon waiting at the counter for assistance, a gentleman came up and asked if he could help her. She said yes and proceeded to show him the violation and said she wanted to check records on her lot for permits. The gentleman ended up identifying himself to her as Brett Long, the inspector that had cited her. He checked archives and after several minutes came back to the counter and stated he had found all her required permits in the lot files. This saved her hundreds of dollars. The fact there were permits issued just as she had been informed by the prior owner of her lot, causing the homeowner undue stress and financial worry for these several days as to where she would get the money to pay for this was totally unnecessary. Brett Long has stated to several homeowners he does not have time to check the files and archives on all of these complaints that were filed by this disgruntled homeowner. This has to be stopped. The stress and the pressure on the people in the resort is tremendous. My parents, we moved here to live next door to them because they are both in their 90s, and they barely can function under the stress that they're under today. Worried that they have been in the park, since its opening, and they have permits on everything, and they're still being cited and I'm sorry. It's horrible. We live next door to them and they have done nothing wrong in the 30-some years they have lived there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Coleman.
My name is Wesley Sharp, and I live at 1295 South Costin in Hemet. I've been at Space 16. I've been a resident of Mountain Shadows for 3.5 years. My parents are original owners who bought property at the start of in August of 1986. My dad is still here after 34 years. He is retired fire chief of Corona, California. So with his knowledge of city codes and regulations, I know everything he did to his 2 lots was with approval of the Park ACC Committee and the Hemet City Building Department and the proper permits. In the beginning, residents often were told by management or the city that permits weren't needed. My main concern is most residents are limited budgets and fixed income and can't afford extreme fees for redoing permits on work done 30 years ago by previous owners, and which most of them have been inspected and cleared at that time. Not to downgrade current COVID situation, loss of life, or hardships, but our senior community has always been a vibrant, happy, and fun place to live with numerous weekly activities. Now, for 6 months, people and neighbors have been isolated into their 800-square-foot homes. No activities, contact only by phone, so alone, scared of the pandemic COVID disease, but now they have to worry about inspections with inconsistent and confusing violations, required licensed electricians with expensive service calls and city fees. How much more can they handle and endure mentally and physically in an already fragile state? And I know a lot of this is repetitive, but we're trying to emphasize how important and it is to all of us. Thank you very much for listening to us, and hope you can help resolve these issues.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Good evening. My name's Debbie Dimbaugh. I'm a resident of Mountain Shadows RV Resort, Space 404, at 1295 South Crowston Avenue in Hemet. I would like to share with you the stress being put on all homeowners as a result of the inspections that have been being performed in our resort. Homeowners that have ultimately had to obtain new permits on all the work that was performed, some as long as 30 years ago, have experienced the following when dealing with the city staff at the Building and Safety Department. The homeowner is being told they must proceed drawings, pay plan check fees, varying in amounts between $100 and $200 after plan check was completed pay permit application fee varying in amounts between $100 and $200. After building permit was issued and delivered to property inspector, was called out for the final inspection. In some cases, other proposed violations were written up on the visit. One homeowner had at least 3 additional inspections. With each subsequent inspection, the homeowner had to call a licensed electrician back out to complete the work, all which were minor and subjective. It has not been uncommon for the entire process to cost homeowners anywhere from $300 to $1,000 to obtain permits for work that has been done many years ago without any life safety issues of any other issues. Residents of Mountain Shadows typically are on fixed incomes without ability to pay these extra fees, and it is causing undue stress and financial hardship to each one of the homeowners. And I have to express too that it has, I moved there 2 years ago. I lost my husband, and I thought this was a beautiful place to live, and it has been absolutely wonderful. I couldn't have picked a better place to live. The people are caring. It's kept up very nice. It is not like a trailer park. And if you could come out and see what we live in, it's like our own little paradise. And it's tearing each one of us apart. And, you know, I hope that you can help resolve every issue that we're having right now. And I thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Marilyn Hooper. I live at 1295 South Costin, number 398. And my husband, Robert, and I just moved there 6 months ago. And the first day that we moved in, we had a violation on our window. We bought the place cash, and it just was a shock. We felt like a criminal. All of a sudden, we felt like, what did we do? And it was like the money pit all of a sudden. And so we called the inspector, we called the city, and the inspector came in right away, or like 2 days later, and we were able to show him the permits of our room addition, and he worked with us. And then we came to find out, I was talking today, I didn't realize, I just found out about this meeting this evening, come to find out that there was one person that has complained close to 500 times, with 500 people in this park. There's something wrong. So I'm just here, like I said, I just found out about this meeting this evening, but just to support Mountain Shadows, these beautiful people, and it's a beautiful place. We love it, but the harassment's got to stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, everyone. Give me a minute to regain my composure, even knowing what's going on, hearing it. My name is Shirley Gravitt. I'm a resident of Mountain Shadows RV Resort, lot number 338, located at 1295 South Costin Avenue, Hemet. Like my neighbors and friends that have spoken before me, I would like to express some heartfelt words to you all and hope you hear me loud and clear. We feel the position the City of Hemet is taking with Mountain Shadows RV Resort is arbitrary and subjective. We do not know of any other housing development within the City of Hemet where the city inspectors are tasked with going through a track and re-inspecting after a 30-year time frame of the homes being constructed. We are not aware of any procedures of city guidelines that allows this kind of activity to take place. MSRVR has never had an electrical fire in its 35 plus years since we became a community. First of all, complaints need to be vetted prior to taking action. It would have been a simple matter to check city records to understand over 90% of the alleged violations on the complaint forms were false. With respect to the second batch of 400 complaints sent to the fire department, it should be noted some were signed by a non-existing entity, namely the dog belonging to the disgruntled homeowner. We were told that this is her First Amendment right to be able to do this. As a homeowner who has known the content and happy way of life at Mountain Shadows RV Resort offered for many years, it is a truly sad situation what the City of Hemet has allowed one resident to destroy. The homeowner filing these complaints is viral and has an end game she has made known to bankrupt our development. By allowing your city inspectors to continue to play it into her hand, you continue to destroy all of our peace of mind. One obtains through owning a home in a neighborhood you feel safe in and enjoy. My hope and sincere hope is the speakers tonight have presented you with enough first-hand information to investigate this matter to the fullest extent possible. We all have rights, and ours are significantly being violated. The disgruntled homeowner needs to be held accountable by the powers that be. Thank you all very much for your time. I know it's been redundant, but we had to get our message to you, so thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Crabbe.
The next request to speak is from Roy McDaniel, followed by Marianne Garowin, which is the last request to speak.
Good evening. Once again, I'm Roy McDaniel. I was here 2 weeks ago. I brought a bunch of parents to speak on our behalf as a team to look into the Hemet Youth baseball matter. They still run travel ball tournaments every weekend, even though they've been informed and told not to do so. So I'm here just to once again inform you guys that they continue to do it, and I know that they are booked out for all of September, all of October, all of November. Once again, they make thousands of dollars per tournament for a league that they shouldn't even really be running. Also, the contract states that they are in a contract with the City of Hemet, but they are an entity that doesn't exist. So that sounds like grounds for termination with the contract, personally. And finally, where does the liability fall if a kid gets severely hurt? I really don't think Hemet Youth, or so-called youth, is going to be able to cover those damages. So who does it fall on? I believe it falls on the city to protect those kids. And I don't think that's what the contract stated for the city to protect the kids. Hemet Youth should be responsible, and Hemet Youth doesn't really exist under the current contract. If we can do this sooner than later to find them not suitable to run it, I would love to do it sooner than later. That way we avoid anyone getting hurt, and then we can get someone in there that really knows how to run baseball, coach baseball, run a proper business as well. And my goal is for every kid in Hemet to play baseball for free next season. I know that's what I would do if I was in charge of it, because I know a lot of people are hurting from this whole COVID deal. So if I can get every kid out there to play for free, that'd be a great thing in 2021. But if you guys have any questions for me, that's my time. I'm good. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, better late than never. So, hi, good evening. I would hope that when you all wanted to be a part of City Council, that you would all be working with other lines of business and paying attention to what's happening and what's going on. However, when it comes to that there's been money that's been relocated or put on the wrong line and it's caught and one of the council members catches it, it all of a sudden becomes off with your head because you brought that to someone's attention when any one of you could have done that. And so I find that when it comes to reading your agendas or reading any kind of reports, it would be really important that you did that. I find that when I come here and I get to speak for 2 minutes, that it's really frustrating to us. Pat had to send one in tonight because she couldn't be here, and then I'm here. And it always seems to come around at election time that everybody seems to climb out from under their rocks and then wants blood from a turnip. So I'm just saying that we're all watching where the money's going. I heard Mr. Gosh talk. He's on a couple committees. And we see that it possibly could have been put on the wrong line. However, it's all of your jobs to watch where that money is, and you should all take responsibility, not just come after the one person who happened to catch it and point it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other requests to speak.
Okay, I thank all of the people that took the time to come and offer their comments. Trust me, the council heard them. Unfortunately, we're not able to take any action on non-agendized items. I believe the city manager may want to make a comment. I'll wait till he comes back into the room.
I've got a question if I could. For the city attorney, with the speakers that spoke, all of them, not just the ones from Mountain Shadows, but the gentleman with Hemet Youth Baseball, do you see that there may be some issues of potential liability or litigation, future litigation, that could come out of any of that?
Don't know, can't answer that. Would need to research more facts and get more information. And because those items aren't on the agenda, I wouldn't want to make a comment.
Okay. The reason why I ask is if that would be something that would warrant a possible emergency closed session discussion.
And don't know enough about the background facts to make a determination on that issue right now.
I asked the Sergeant at Arms, is the city manager going to be joining us shortly? He's outside. Okay. Yeah. We're going to take a brief recess. Okay. We have the city manager back and our council members seated again. So we will reconvene the meeting. And City Manager, did you have a brief comment that you'd like to make?
I'll be following up with the group. We've already scheduled that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next on our item is public hearing, item 11. City Council's procedures for public hearing will be as follows. Staff will provide a report and clarification of items presented. The public hearing will be open for comments for those in favor of or in opposition to the item, followed by a rebuttal to any comments made. Public hearing will then be closed and the City Manager may respond to any questions raised by the public. The public will not have an opportunity to respond. Discussion will then be brought back to the City Council for direction or action. We have a report from staff on the public hearing.
Yes, we have Veronica from the Finance Department that will be giving the staff report.
Good evening, Veronica.
Good evening, Mayor Brown and council members. I'm here to speak about the Community Development Block Grant coronavirus funding. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide the community an opportunity to express their interest or concerns to the council in preparation for allocation of approximately $542,529 in Community Development Block Grant coronavirus funding. This grant funding is to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus, and given the acronym cdbg-CV. Information gathered will be summarized and incorporated into the city's 2020-21 Annual Action Plan Substantial Amendment Draft and the 2020-2025 Consolidated Plan Substantial Amendment Draft. To date, no written public comments have been received. In addition, Council is being asked to reactivate the cdbg ad-hoc committee and appoint 2 council members to serve in the selection process and funding recommendations of the eligible 2021 cdbg CV applications. Application packets for the 2021 cdbg CV funding year were available on the city's website with a due date of September 8, 2020. Applications have been received and are being reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. And with that, do you have any questions of staff?
So just to clarify, this is funding separate from CARES Act funding?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Question?
Yeah.
Staff?
So I'm confused. So the process for this is to prepare the amendment that will spend these funds, or is there something that I'm missing? What is the amendment about?
In order to receive the funding, we need to amend our 2021 Annual Action Plan, as well as the consolidated plan, the 5 consolidated plan, in order to receive this funding and add the funding to our annual plan and our consolidated plan, because it is separate from the regular CDBG funding that we receive.
And I'll get the right adjective there pretty soon. Will the amendment entertain or explain how and where these funds are going to be spent? And if so, how explicit does it have to be?
They want to have the focus on funding eligible activities that prepare for, prevent, and respond to coronavirus. So all of the applications that have been received focus on activities within the community that if we didn't have this funding, we would be able to help our community.
And have we received any applications? I mean, do the people even know about this? I mean, I know about it, but...
Yes, we had a public notice in the newspaper in La Prensa and Price on La Prensa, and it was public noticed, and they had 4 weeks to submit their applications. We have received 6 applications.
Okay. So I guess my follow-up to that is, with the timetable of submitting this to HUD no later than November 15th. Do the funds need to be allocated to different entities before November 15th, or does a plan just have to be in effect by November 15th, and then we get the funding, and then we decide who it goes to? What's the position of the cart and the horse?
It's similar to the process with the regular CDBG, where we have the ad hoc committee. The council on the ad hoc will determine which applications to fund, and then we go back to city council to approve or accept the applications that were being funded. And then it's submitted to HUD for their review and approval. When I say submitted to, the annual action plan and the consolidated plan substantial amendment.
All right. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm confused on the timeline now. So if we follow the same process as we previously have for CDBG, the ad hoc committee reviews the applications and makes a recommendation that comes back to council, correct? But do we have to, kind of a follow-up to Linda's question, do we have to complete all of that by the November 7th date? 15th. So that we have to receive all of the applications. They get 4 weeks to submit an application?
I believe it's already been.
It's already been.
We already have applications now.
Okay, so that time limit is expired. We have all the applications that we can legally receive. So we need to form the ad hoc committee, review those, and make a recommendation back to council by November 15th.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, got that. Any other questions of staff?
They want the people, right?
Right. Okay. If there are no more questions of staff, I will open the public hearing. Do we have any comments from the public?
There are no requests to speak for in-person. I have not received any electronic comments. I'll go ahead and unmute the line for the teleconference. There's one member of the public on there.
Is there a person on the teleconference line that wishes to speak on this public hearing item? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. And we have 3 recommended actions in the staff report. One, that the City Council conduct a public hearing and elicit comments. We've done that. 2, receive and consider all comments for incorporation in the City of Hemet 2020 Annual Action Plan, Substantial Amendment Draft, and the 2020 to 2025 Consolidated Plan, Substantial Amendment Draft. And then the last item is to form the CDBG Ad Hoc Committee. So, does anybody have an interest in participating on the CDBG Ad Hoc Committee?
Yeah. And I still have another question.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. And I'm going to go back to the substantial amendment draft. When do we see that? Or is there what do, I mean, this is the most confused I've been on CDBG in a long time.
Would that draft be a result of the action by the ad hoc committee bringing before the council?
Yes.
So that's the actual amendment draft, is the allocation of the $500,000.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, it takes a while. Love CDBG. Yes, I'd love to be on that committee since I was on the other end.
Okay. You were just on cdbg.
Okay.
And you were fairly recently on. It's probably my turn. So I will establish the ad hoc committee as Mayor Pro Tem Krupa and myself.
Can we meet with you real soon?
Real soon.
Real soon.
Real soon, because you do good work. You give good information.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on the public hearing item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the staff recommendation. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much,
Thank
Veronica. Okay, next is item 12A. We have a presentation by Community Development Director H.P. Kang. Welcome.
So I wanted to provide a little bit of context as to what we're doing here. This really came about from a presentation that I gave probably a few weeks ago at SRCAR, talking about the development activity that's going on in our community. This opportunity tonight that HP will be presenting talks about some of these development projects, provides an avenue for the rest of the community members that may not have been a part of that discussion to get a feel for the things that are going on in our community and what to look forward to. I don't believe that this is by any means exhaustive or complete, but it highlights some of the more prominent projects that are going on in our community. It's a very busy time in community development, and I think you'll be able to see why. So with that, HP.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And Mayor and members of the council. Tonight before you, we'll be talking about some of the projects that we're working on, some of the projects that's already been approved, and some of the projects that is still under review or anticipated to be reviewed. So the first item that I want to talk to you about is S2A Tesla Power Modular Smart Home Factory. So this is a factory that will produce up to 1,000 residential units and 2,000 commercial units per year. This will be located at State Street, next to Crow's Nest Street. It is being proposed at 210,000 square foot of manufacturing facility on 32 acres. It is a net zero facility, which means that all the electricity that they use or utilize will be based on their solar panels. It'll encompass a sales office, a model complex, employs approximately 100 skilled workers. And the business owner has indicated that they'll use Tesla trucks to deliver these units. So this is what will potentially look like. Those circular or modular items are the model homes that they'll be constructing. If you have any time, you can go into S2A Modular on a website, and you'll see more of the different types of products that they'll produce. They have very modern or traditional style architectures, and based on what the owner is provided or has provided, the product that they're producing will be fireproof or fire retardant heavily, so that some of the cities like City Paradise have ordered from these folks to get their homes built in those areas. Next is a Holiday Inn and Express. This project is being proposed at 3850 West Florida Avenue. This is a 4-story product at 80 rooms. It's on 1.59 acres, and it's currently under review. This will be located just west of Ramada Inn on Florida Avenue. This project is on Stetson and Sanderson, southeast corner. This is a 12-bay gas station with 4,000 square foot of C-store, which is 7-Eleven, 2,600 square foot of drive-through restaurant,
3,500 square foot of car wash with 20 vacuum stations. And if I go back to the front map, the parking lot for McClomber, which is in the center of that image, their current parking lot is on the west side. They'll be building a parking lot on the east side of the building, and they'll swap the property so that they can build a commercial property on the corner. This is a Ramona Creek specific plan. Recently, this product was had an extension of time for 2 years for tract map 36510. This encompasses 37 full future lot development. It's on a 43 acres. It has a commercial mixed development of 535,000 plus square footage of commercial. It'll encompass retail, service, entertainment, restaurants, professional offices, medical, cultural, and higher learning facilities. This is an urbanized plaza with water features near restaurants and commercial. It has a potential of 1,077 single-family residential units and open space development. This is a location. It borders Florida, Warren, and to the north. And then Rancho Diamante is another residential development being proposed. It's a tenant tract 35392. This encompasses approximately 155 units at 48.4 acres. Again, this has a 2-year extension of time that will expire in May 5th of 2022. Another tract, tract map 35393. We had a 2-year extension of time. Again, it will expire in May of 2022. This has a potential of 440 single-family residential units at 103 acres. They're proposing a 1.17 acres of park site and 12 open space lots. This is located in the southeast corner of Mustang and Warren. Recently approved is a Citrus Point. This is a 80 single-family residential lot that's on the east end of town. It is on the northeast corner of Lake in Florida. They have proposed 3 different models on this product, and this is being developed by D.R. Horton. We also have Seasons at McSweeney. This is a 77 single-family residential lots that are being proposed, or that is already approved, at the southeast corner of McSweeney Parkway and South Village Loop. They are under construction for model homes at this point. This is the layout of that tract. This is a Latham project. This is a 120-unit assisted living senior apartment complex. It's at 3.31 acres. It's on southerly side of Latham Avenue, east of Lyon, and west of Elk Street. And we recently had a historic Hemet Theater renovation approved. This was a community development director review approval. They're going to do a facade restoration and repair, marquee and new blade sign, interior improvements including restoration, lobby, main auditorium, ADA compliant restrooms, ADA seating, and update on mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. This is a Chinese laundry shoes drop ship and warehouse. This was recently approved through Community Development Director Review. It is a existing 83,000 square foot. It's the old Kmart building on 7.64 acres. They employ approximately 15 employees, and this is not a retail store, rather a drop ship and warehouse. And they'll operate out of there for approximately 1.5 to 2 years. Next item is Starbucks at Page Plaza. This was approved, and the Starbucks building actually is finished construction. Starbucks building is at 2,500 square foot, and they also constructed they also approved for 3,700 square foot drive-through restaurant just next to it, which is the image that you see on the right side of that picture.
Do we know what restaurant that's going to go there?
We do not know the tenants as of today.
They're just going to build the...
Correct. So the next item is Zanderson Plaza. They're under construction at 6,200 square foot of two-story convenience store with 20 gas pumps stations. There are 3 5,000 square foot approximately drive-through restaurants also approved with that, and a 40,000 square foot multi-tenant building to the east side. This is located at northeast corner of Sanderson and Mello. This is some of the elevation shots for the gas station itself. And we have upcoming projects. We have Raising Canes that are being proposed at 3156 West Florida Avenue, O'Reilly's Hamburger at Tanya and Stetson, O'Reilly's at Page Plaza, tentative track map 37552, which is 51 single-family lots at 800 North Girard, Last Stand Performance Marine at 601 South Sanderson, Country Grill at 3969 West Florida Avenue, and Hemet Industrial at northwest corner of Airway and Wentworth. Also in that mix is Rancho Diamante 2, which is 586 single-family home. So west of Warren, east of San Diego Aqueduct. And we also have a service station renovation at 501 East Florida Avenue. Delphina at Devonshire. This is a gas station, C-store, car wash, and a 64-unit apartment complex at 325 North Sanderson. We also have Sunny Car Wash, northeast corner of Cornell in Florida, as well as northeast corner of Gilbert and Stetson. There are 2 different projects. They're both called Sunny Car Wash. And we also have a proposal from Shoe City location that they would like to do a farmer's market to the south of that property. So we have multiple different projects that are coming through community development and through the city. And these are just a list of some of the businesses that obtained a new business license in 2020. There are approximately 60 of them. Some are change of ownership, but most of them are new businesses in the city. And with that, staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you, HP, for that presentation. So other than that, you've not been doing anything, right? Any questions of staff or council?
Can you provide us with a copy of that?
Sure, absolutely.
Does SB 743 on vehicle miles traveled have any negative impact on any of these developments coming forward?
They would have to go through a vehicle miles traveled analysis along with LOS analysis due to the fact that we still have LOS in our general plan. So it's just an added analysis component to their environmental, but it does not have a negative impact on these developments.
Okay, thank you.
I have just a couple questions. The Country Grill, is that location the former Marie Callender's?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Next to Vaqueros.
I'd seen work going on there, and I had heard that it was going to be a steakhouse or something. So that's moving along. And my other question is on Ramona Creek. I know that that's been subject of a lot of questions over the years, and so granting the extension, what's your assessment on exactly what that represents? Do we anticipate some activity, groundbreaking, going on as a result of that extension?
Sure. We're actually finishing up the environmental document right now, so it should be coming before the Planning Commission shortly.
Thank you. All very encouraging. Okay, well, this doesn't require any council action, but I would appreciate getting a copy of that presentation.
Absolutely. Again, it was just for informational purposes. It was just to get information out to the council, the community, and just get everyone geared up for what's coming down the road. On that same vein, we're making some strides to highlight some of the work that's going on in the community. Next month, we should receive a presentation about the work that the city has done over the last year and a half related to the city CIP. So we'll do a similar type of conversation related to the CIP so that everyone can see what's going on across the city.
Thanks for this update and to let us know, because a lot of the stuff that was on there has been rumors flying around on social media. If there's any way we can get a list of some of these things that have been approved and are in the works moving forward on our social media platforms to kind of maybe dispel some of those rumors so that people know.
Great, we'll do that.
Okay, moving on to item 12B, a highlight reel of recent accomplishments.
In our desire to get information out to the community, we'll be rolling out some of these snippets, these little short 60-second videos to the community to get them just bite-sized information about what's going on in the community. This was the unveiling, the grand unveiling we had tonight. We'll be sharing this on social media in the near term to make sure that the rest of the community sees about this. But again, we'll be doing these types of short videos, putting them out to the community so that everybody knows quick bite what's going on in the community, updates, notable events, and just engaging the community on a more consistent and frequent basis moving forward.
Excellent. Good idea. And to the point that Michael made, there's an awful lot of rumors and speculation that float around when you see certain activities out there. So trying to get ahead of the game with these kinds of informational things is very important. So thank you. Moving on to item 13, receive and file. We have the 13A Measure U Citizen Oversight Committee letter dated September 14th, 2020 regarding fiscal year 2018/19 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report CAFR review. So this is just a receive and file item. So may I have a motion to receive and file?
I will move to receive and file.
Second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to receive and file. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Moving on to item 14, consent calendar. These items will be acted upon simultaneously unless requested by an individual council member for separate consideration. Are there any council members that would like to pull any consent items for separate consideration?
14B.
14B.
14D.
So 14B and 14D. Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 14A and 14C.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve 14A and C. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. That passes unanimously. Okay, 14B.
My question, this is a contract for 3 years, $1.4 million. I just want to confirm that these are landscape maintenance districts that's paying for this, and this is not coming out of the general fund.
Yes, good evening, Council. This is Charles Russell, Refuge Superintendent for the Public Works Department. Yes, the answer to that question is yes. These are all paid for to do assessments.
Okay, thank you. Very good. There's a serious voice in the sky.
Okay. Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome.
I have a question on the item 2, Russ. Our budgeted amount is 372, almost 373, and the amount we're approving, our annual amount, and the amount we're approving is about $480,000 a year. So there's no budget appropriation, or we're just gonna spend over the amount.
No, the budgeted amount that you're referring to out there, I'm not sure if you have included the districts, the post-218 districts. We have the original districts that have a budget amount, and we also have all of the post-218 districts that each have their individual amounts to pay for their own through the assessment. So we do have enough funding to cover the cost of the contract.
I'm just referring to the physical impact. The fiscal impact, it has $372,995.60 is available in our fiscal year 2021 landscape maintenance assessment districts, facility maintenance, and parks operating budgets respectively. So,
yeah, I'm sorry. That's because this contract is only for 9 months. So it's not for the 12-month period. The annual amount, of course, for 12 months, but for the rest of the fiscal year, that's what that amount amounts to, just for the rest of the fiscal year from from October 1st through June 30th.
And my other question is, they increased their fees this year. And did we anticipate that when we were budgeting? I mean,
yes.
You know what I'm asking?
I anticipated a 5% increase. We will still be able to fall within our budgets.
All right, and then what is referred to as extra work and the $50,000 that falls outside of the scope, is this in lieu of what maybe some of our downsizing of staff?
No, this is the extra work. It includes things that are not included in that aren't going to be performed as for monthly maintenance. Monthly maintenance is for trimming, mowing, edging, and repair of irrigation. But if we want to do extra work like plant new material or do turf removal projects or do install new districts, then that would be paid for out of the $50,000 for the extra work.
Okay, thank you.
And then if I could add one item to that, we didn't make any reductions in the landscape assessment districts because those are separate and apart from general fund operations.
So you're good? All right, I'll move to approve 14B.
We have a motion to approve 14B.
Second.
And a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Item 14D.
Yes. It does say ratify. This is only to ratify what we currently have in place for outside dining restaurants to make sure that we are safeguarding handicap parking.
So I'll HP provide the more thorough staff report item, but this is essentially, you'll recall that the council ratified the outdoor dining program. This program in and of itself is now for gymnasiums and other services that would like to be outside, so we're creating a similar system for those folks as well.
I mean, part of it is to make sure we have
That's
handicap
correct,
parking
yes.
available for those people, and that the spaces that they're using for outdoor use do not encroach upon handicap parking.
Absolutely, yes.
And that's basically, and this all comes to a close when we never become green?
Well, as the city and as the county moves through different phases, they still allow only certain thresholds of occupancy within the inside of the facility. So I think there's still going to be probably an opportunity and a desire for some of these businesses to do the outside work because they will be limited what they can do on the inside.
10%? Yeah, interesting. And this is just something to consider when we turn green. In that, if some of these businesses have been very successful in having outdoor spaces used, is that something we could entertain in the future to allow them to continue doing that? I mean, some of the restaurants have really created very, very nice outdoor seating areas, and to, you know, people, if it's not 110 degrees, people like to sit outside. And if this is something that can be considered when we roll out these things and quote go back to normal, where everybody goes back inside, if we could consider allowing businesses at no additional cost or whatever to maintain the type of outdoor activity that they are doing right now and seem to be successful at.
Correct. What I would say is currently everyone is limiting their activities, whether it's restaurants or fitness centers or those type of things. So as we go forward and we open fully, we may have to look at and analyze the parking ratio.
Right.
Just because if you have a full access for the building itself plus the outdoor activities, then now you've increased the number of people that can be at that location. So we just have to look at the parking ratio. But other than that, as long as they're keeping drive aisles, access points clear, and there's clearly marked so that we don't have any issues of vehicular and pedestrian impacts, and then we can see how that goes in the future.
I would just like us to keep an open mind that if a business prefers to maintain their outdoor activities, that the city would not be against that type of activity if it can be rolled into all of the other things we have to comply with. So thank you. And with that,
and just one comment, if I could coattail on that, I would just want to make sure that if when we emerge out of this pandemic, if we had restaurants that wanted to continue outdoor dining, obviously this is an interim situation with easy ups and that kind of thing. So I just want us to consider the aesthetics of something that might be established on a permanent basis.
You don't like easy ups?
I love easy ups for sports or the beach. The beach.
Mayor, if I may, we're also looking at some development standards that may incorporate some folding full-size door windows so that they can, in the event that they have to open it up for outdoors, then they could fold those doors or slide them out of the way so it becomes partially outdoor indoor, so that they can utilize the existing building rather than try to create new space.
Great idea. Thank you.
A lot of creative ideas percolating up as a result of this.
And with that, if there's nothing else, I'll move approval of 14D.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve 14D. As in David. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer? Yes. Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Discussion items 15. We have 15A is a resolution declaring a limitation for campaign contributions to candidates for elective offices in the city of Hemet. So this is carried forward from some discussion at our last council meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. As mentioned, this item is a follow-up to a discussion at your last council meeting regarding campaign contribution limits. So just as a reminder or refresher, at your last council meeting we discussed the new state law, AB 571, which says that local city elected positions starting on January 1st of 2021 will be subject to the same campaign contribution limits as established by state law, which as of now, as of today, are individuals and businesses, $4,700, and small contributor committees, $9,300. However, a city may establish either a higher or a lower campaign contribution limit. So last council meeting, council gave direction to bring back a resolution that would establish a local limit similar to those established by state law. So before you is a resolution establishing campaign contribution limits for individuals and businesses set at $5,000 and small contributor committees at $10,000. Finally, the resolution is not effective until December 31st, 2020, so that it will not apply to those running for election at the election this coming November. That concludes the presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions of our city attorney?
I have one question. What is the legal definition of a small contributor committee?
I can read it to you. I have to take my glasses off. It's in small print. A small contributor committee means a committee that meets the following criteria. A, the committee has been in existence for at least 6 months. B, the committee receives contributions from 100 or more persons. C, no one person has contributed to the committee more than $200 in a calendar year. And finally, D, the committee makes contributions to 5 or more candidates. Government.
Doesn't surprise me. I didn't know what that was. That's not a question. I just wanted to know what it was.
Other question?
Yeah, at the last meeting, we talked about doing a resolution versus an ordinance. That way there's some more flexibility in it, and it could be changed at whenever. I think that we're on the right track, but I know there was some discussion also at the last meeting about what other cities have proposed and what other cities have come up with. My question is that in this resolution that we set, there's fixed dollar amounts, but over time the amounts will change, set by the state, and then we're locked in. I would think that we would probably be better off if we're not going to do these, so we don't do the same amount that the state does, because you had mentioned not doing the same amount, that maybe we do the amount set by the state plus a percentage, or minus a percentage. I think it should be plus, but so like earlier I was thinking, what does that look like? And I was thinking that whatever the state amount, and that could be language that could be put into this, is that the amount for Hemet is set based on the state times, say 2.5 times whatever the state amount is, so that our amount will float with the state amount, or 1.5 times whatever the state amount is, or however that may look. So that way we're not kind of locked in, but there's still movement and flexibility in the resolution itself.
And the state does change the amount every 2 years. They look at those total amounts, and they will make changes.
And what I think we're missing in ours is the ability to change our amounts every 2 years. Like, we need to have that language in ours, I think. You know how they have that right in the middle there, the odd year, to reflect it in the increase or decrease in the consumer price index, something. But you still don't have anything from any other cities yet?
What I know from other cities that they're still discussing and considering this item, I don't have any specific dollar amounts from cities that I'm aware of.
I would like to see some. I mean, before we just pass it, we have time. I mean, even if we wait till October.
Sure.
You're laughing. Yeah.
True. I know that many cities are discussing the item, but they have not yet set
to see what people are.
Yeah. That's fair. If the council,
that matches as far as the reevaluation part.
Sure.
I think that would be kind of a wise direction to go, and maybe look at not setting that fixed dollar amount and make it so that we don't have to look at it every 2 years. We can just let it'll float with whatever the state sets.
Would like to continue this item. We could wait and see what some other cities are doing, bring it back at a future meeting with that information. Once we're able to obtain it, we can do that. As mentioned, you do have some time.
I think my recollection of the discussion last meeting was essentially to not exclude ourselves from being able to regulate and control locally, as opposed to having what the state limits are imposed on us. And so this is our opportunity to set something. So I think it's reasonable to look at something that, like Michael is suggesting, that doesn't necessarily require it be brought back every 2 years for some adjustment. So that would be reasonable and gives us time to look at what other cities are doing. They might be waiting to see what we're doing.
And I'm prepared to make a motion if...
Does the state, how does the state determine the amount that they increase? Or is it just they look at it every 2 years and they're okay with it, increase it by 2.5%?
From what I read, it was based on CPI.
CPI. Okay, could we write that just into ours, but also make it so that it's in odd years, so that none of the council is running for election in a year? I mean, I don't mind the increase going into effect whenever it does, but for having council voting on it when you're up for election is kind of a conflict of interest. But that's my opinion.
That's a good point.
The state can do whatever they want. The governor determines how much he wants to get each time that he gets up for election. So, yes, yeah. So, and that might be a good thing that you look at it in
non-election year.
Non-election year, in the first 6 months of the year, or whatever, after an election. So that would make it in odd years. That's my input.
Okay. I think Michael is ready to float a motion.
With that, I've got a motion that we postpone this to the to bring this back to the meeting after the new council is seated. So that would be the first meeting in December. So that way there's time to get it through so that it can then go into effect December 31st.
Yes.
Okay, so moved.
It's got to be in effect.
Yes.
Correct.
So my motion is to postpone to the first meeting in December to be brought back for a vote.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone this item to the first meeting in December. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer? Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 15B, update of the proposed changes to the 2019 California Code of Regulations, Title 24. And we have Sarah to give us a staff report. Welcome, Sarah.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. So your broken record is back to recap what we discussed at 4 previous council meetings regarding our 2019 California Code of Regulations. So as a result of that, there were 4 main items to update in the code that do affect intent or the reading of the code. 2 of those are in regards to changing words and the appropriate word to be used. The other 2 more major items are the items to discuss the definition of what a qualified individual is that you guys requested us to eliminate the subjectivity of how it was written in the code, then also to discuss the working hours when emergency repairs are needed to be made. So there's 2 options to move forward with. The first option would require us to do a public hearing, to set a public hearing and then followed by the second reading and then 30 days later for the revisions to the ordinance to go into effect. This would also require us to codify the revisions into the municipal code, and it would probably take about
90 days to go into effect. The second option, which is what we're suggesting, is the code currently allows the building official to set policy within the department. And we feel by setting this policy and giving a more detailed explanation within those policies of what the intent of the council was, is that would meet the intent of what the council wanted us to interpret these sections as. So I'm happy to answer any of your questions that you might have.
Thank you, Sarah. Council, any questions of staff?
Of this time.
If there are no questions?
Let me ask one question. Have we been having problems with this?
No.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to know.
Okay, if there are no further questions.
There's no problem with building and safety, right?
30 minutes ago.
I'm sorry. You asked, I had to comment.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion on item 15B.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Purcell?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that passes unanimously.
Are you the only one that saw anything funny in that?
Item 15C, waiver of underground utility lines related to the proposed improvements at 601 South Sanderson Avenue, Last Chance Performance Marine. And we have a staff report. Our city engineers. Welcome, Steve.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Please forgive me, I just keep fogging up my glasses. I even had to change masks halfway through. So tonight, as you mentioned, Mayor, this is a request for waiver of undergrounding utility lines at the proposed business at 601 South Sanderson. Back in 2017, the City Council approved an amendment to the municipal code related to the undergrounding of utilities, and this was primarily done with a lot of department heads as well as Councilmember Percival involved with that as well. It was intended to allow undue hardship, financial hardship, to be kind of expressed during that time. One of the provisions, though, was that within this revision to the municipal code, that a grant of a waiver of undergrounding utilities would be allowed due to financial hardship in that new code, or new code section, I should say. One of the key caveats, though, for this was that it would not result in a negative impact to public health, safety, or welfare. Just moving on to this new development here is that this is a remodel or redevelopment of this site. It was an existing veterinarian building built back in the 1970s. I don't have an exact date on that, but back in that time, the undergrounding of the utilities was not required in the municipal code. Since then, on both sides of this development, there is the solar farm on the north and a small market or a small shopping center on the south. The new development will remodel the existing veterinarian building as well as construct two new buildings, which will be boat sales and services. The existing site has two poles in front of the property in the right-of-way. One of the poles takes power, cable, telephone from the east side of Sanderson, takes it to this pole on the west side, and then takes it into the site, services the building. From that pole also it goes down to the south and then underground from that point. Wherever it goes from that point, nobody really knows except for Edison, maybe. If the undergrounding for this site was to be required still, if the council so chose, the applicant would need to start on the east side of the street, bore across the street to the west, and then down to the south, be a total of about 130 linear feet. The estimated cost for this is anywhere from $150,000 to $170,000. That's what we identified in the staff report based on estimates that we received from the applicant. In addition, there were some things that were left out of there, and those were the actual tariff costs that Edison puts on there, which are somewhere in the realm of 30% on top of the actual cost, because they still have to do their design as well as their construction. The applicant would only end up putting in the conduits and any other tie-in points. So the last item is that this waiver is allowed within the municipal code. This is something that it would go before the council to be able to decide. With that, I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions of staff?
I do have some. So when this, part of my involvement in this is that that it would create some undue burdens on development and trying to get more development happening in the city. If I'm not mistaken, the applicant or for this project, they don't own the property, so they're in the process of looking at purchasing it. So my question is this a discussion that could be had with the applicant? Why does the city have to bear all this cost when they haven't purchased the property? Couldn't there be some type of negotiation between the buyer and the seller of the current owner of the property and the buyer of the property to be able to work out some of this cost as part of the sale? So that's part of it. The other part is the second pole is on the far south end, and from when I looked at it, it looks like that pole is actually on the adjacent property's side and not on this property side. I could be mistaken. And you asked where does the power go, and I believe there's a power pedestal just to the south. So is this something that power line can be just completely taken off from across the street? They can get rid of the pole and just pull power from that power right there, which would be much closer and I'm sure much cheaper than getting power from or having to dig underneath or drill or however they would do it to get it across Sanderson underneath. So I think those are some of the questions that I have. And I don't know if the city manager or you could.
Well, I can just share with you one bit of information as far as pulling power from the poles. That's something that only Edison can tell us. They will determine where there's going to be power pulled from. The fact that power is pulled as well as telephone and cable, based on what I could tell from the line coming from the east side of the street, phone and cable I imagine could be pulled from anywhere. But power is determined by Edison. And you're absolutely right, it does go underground. There's a myriad of meters and pedestals over there.
All of them are right there just to the south in front of the Wentworth Plaza.
Wentworth Plaza, there you go. But I don't know what Edison would require as far as where the power would be for this particular building, because based on what I could tell is that the power comes across the street, hits this pole, goes down underground at that pole, the larger pole, goes underground and serves the property. You can tell that based on the Edison information that's been provided in the field.
So is this something that might be able to be partially covered by fee in lieu of undergrounding from other projects? That because if that power that's coming across the street from the east side of Sanderson is also providing power, if those power lines are providing power to Wentworth Plaza also, I think that maybe if there was some fees, I mean, this person shouldn't bear the cost, the full cost, if the other property owner is benefiting. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, and trust me, it's difficult for me because I want to see development happen in our city. I don't want to see this business that's currently in our city leave our city to go to another city because we can't get it done for them. I want to make sure we can get it done, but I don't think that the full burden should be on the city of Emmett. If there's funds available that might be able to, especially if that benefits another property owner.
So let me add a little bit of background to this, just to give everybody a perspective of what the staff has done, the process thus far, and then why it was so important to get this to the council. Had this been 2016 and had the applicant come in and said this is an undue financial burden on the city, then the city, essentially staff would have said, well, there's no other options for you. There's nothing that we can do. There's a requirement that's there, and unfortunately you have to do this work now. And so in 2017, from looking back in the documents and talking to Steve and some of the other staff, the 2017 ordinance that we're referencing was really the solution to put this back in the hands of the council to look at it and see whether there was any other opportunity to work with the applicant, work with potential businesses, and really determine a solution moving forward. So a couple of months ago, staff, community development, HP, and I met with the owners of Last Chance Performance Marine, and they talked about their business. They talked about the need to get out of their existing location, and so they were up against the time crunch to determine whether they were going to stay in Hemet, go to an outside location, or build something from scratch or remodel. So for us, we felt that it was really important to sit down with them as much as we needed to, talk about the options moving forward, be transparent, but then also provide as much information as possible about the process and what they needed to go through in order to make this project a reality. And so for them, they're up against a significant time crunch, and so we committed to them that whatever meetings that they needed with staff, that we would accommodate those meetings. They had to go through the DRC process, and in that process they were made aware of all of the conditions that were required for that project. So for this group, they got those conditions, and then they came to staff and said the cost for undergrounding that is going to be significant. That it's really going to price out the project. So we made them aware of the ordinance, or they may have known about that. I don't know the details. I wasn't involved at that point. They then developed, they got the quotes for the cost of the construction. They then provided the quotes for undergrounding those utilities, and that's where we are now. And so what we have from the staff perspective is we've got a business that is in our community that has done very well. They've shown significant growth in our community. Unfortunately for the city of Hemet, our bread and butter, our ability to generate revenue for our community is really dependent upon how the local economy is doing. So the commitment that we conveyed to the group was that whatever we can do to get items to the council or get them to the staff side, that we committed to doing everything that we could possibly do to get them to that point. And so unfortunately for us, when it comes to how we generate revenue in our community, it's contingent upon how sales tax, how sales are doing. In this particular instance, with some of the things that they sell at their location, we directly benefit from that. And so for us, it is a financial opportunity for us. But again, we wanted to make sure that we brought it forward to the council so that the council had the kind of the background and the opportunity to weigh in on this, because from the staff perspective, we want this group to expand. It's really exciting when we see businesses that do expand and decide to grow. And so that's really what we prepared for the council tonight, is getting them through the process. The code does specify that they do request the waiver to the city engineer, and then it goes before the council. So we've essentially just followed the steps that have been laid out there, but that's the background on how we got to this point.
I'm under the impression from this staff report that we're not that the city is not assuming the cost of undergrounding. We are waiving the fact you don't have to underground.
That's correct.
So basically everything that is above the ground right now as far as poles is going to be the source of electricity for the new project.
That's correct.
So we're not assuming any cost on it at all. There's not going to be any undergrounding. So it's kind of just like, you don't have to do it.
It'll just stay the way it looks.
It's the way it is. We don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. Edison can work miracles, whatever they do. So
I'm glad you think that they can work miracles.
well, they think they can work miracles too. Okay, I just wanted that clarification that
And I have one more, but
it's not an assumption of liability or cost that the city is going to undertake and actually underground anything. It's just going to stay status quo, everything above ground at that point, and they can just tie into existing poles. Because I think their business is awesome.
So you said that you didn't know for sure what Edison was going to choose. So is this a worst case scenario situation?
Let me rephrase that then. So Edison, they are in charge of their system, their grid. So they may determine that power has to be pulled from some other location if it is chosen to be undergrounded. And that's completely up to them.
We have no idea what they're going to. I mean, if there's a conduit already going under the ground, they can't like pull their, wire through. You have to redig it.
Well, they may just pull the power from that pole because there's adequate power to serve the site. I'm guessing because of the fact that it's already serving it. But if they decide to, if it's decided to underground it, Edison may at that point say that their system has changed and then has to redesign where it's coming from. I'm speculating based on my past experience with Edison, which I couldn't bet you anything on it. So I hope that answers it. But
yeah.
I know, and I'm sorry. I wish I could say more though.
Right. So we don't know for sure what route they're going to choose.
Well, at this point, when the applicant, if we, let's say you make the decision to have the waiver in place, the applicant would then proceed with approaching Edison to then say, okay, this is their site, we need power for this. Edison may come back and decide, all right, well, since originally when the power came across the street, well, there's another pedestal right down the street here where we can pull from. But that would also mean then that if Edison says, well, we're not going to pull power from that pole anymore, well, we don't need that pole, but then you still have the joint powers because Edison's the one in control of the poles with cable and telephone. And I'm kind of getting...
We're being proactive on this? Is that what you're saying? I'm impressed.
Well...
Okay. This goes back to what I said last meeting. And I know that this is in our ordinance, but why do we even have this? I voted no on the in lieu of and all this goofy stuff. If we have everybody always coming for waivers, then why do we even have this? Just let them build.
Not everybody does, depending on the circumstance. If it's brand new development and going...
We just waived DR1. I mean...
But again, there's infill.
That's real funny.
Infill areas are really expensive to do with existing infrastructure, whereas everything is open and brand new in underground. And that was the intent, I think, when this ordinance was approved. It's the new stuff, Carly. It's not the old stuff.
Okay, so here's my question, and again, I'm all in favor of keeping this business in our community and getting them up and going in a bigger facility. I'm all in favor of that. Here's my question to you about the power pole. So if we grant them a waiver, that power pole still stays there. I think the whole intent of that ordinance back when it was passed was for making it aesthetically pleasing to the eye and not having to look at overhead power lines. I'm going to go on a limb and think that's the case. So is there at some point in time, maybe in the future, they get their project going, they're up and running, and they're killing it, and is there some funding opportunities that we may be able to look at in the future for some of these undergrounding projects where we've got one or two poles that have wires that we can, maybe get, if we can use CDBG money for facilities and we get this stuff undergrounded in the future at some point in time?
I do have sort of an answer for that. Based on Rule 20A funds, every city does have some. I don't know the balance that the city does have that Edison basically puts in this pot. But that would be a type of project that could be, I believe, based on 20A guidelines, that could be done to put that underground.
So we could maybe identify several of these projects throughout the city where there's maybe one or two poles, and we can work with Edison to find these funds to make that happen? Yeah. Right.
The city actually used those funds back in 1990s, early 2000s. And there was, I don't know that it's still in place, where you could kind of negotiate with surrounding cities that weren't using their monies in those funds, and it could all go into a pot, and then sometime later you divvy it back out. But that's how the undergrounding got done downtown. And that code section, whatever, came up last year at the League of Cities for cost for undergrounding of wires for cities that were in high fire areas. And could there be some type of an amendment to that code so that, again, cities that don't have any use for it, if they're not in a high fire area, all of their credits could go to a city that could use it. Sure. And we basically kind of just, cities like us said, no, you large cities aren't going to take our credits. We'll negotiate them on our own. But yeah, there is that available. And I don't know what Hemet has either, but there is that section of code, whatever it is, 28, 26?
It's Rule 20A.
20, letter A.
Now, please understand that the credits do not build at every pass, based on my experience with Edison as well. So, I wouldn't know how much the city has in any kind of credits at this point.
And if this ordinance are in lieu of and waiving fees is for new development, and if you put that in there, then these kind of headaches won't stop the process. Because, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it says 4 new projects, then we won't be tagging every single person that is trying to...
So let me ask you this, based on your experience and you're working with this, since you've been with the city of Hemet, do you think that maybe you can come up with some fine-tuning to this ordinance so that we're not constantly having to do these waivers?
Wow. Can I just go down the street and get you a Starbucks, maybe? Honestly, Councilmember Percival, I really do think that the language within there was really well put together, because the problem, if I can just share some of my experience, the problem that staff runs into all the time is you hear about requests for waivers. This is not going to pencil our project out. You hear that all the time. And I do understand that, because the cost to underground these things is not getting any cheaper. Now, as I mentioned earlier with the cost for this here that they had received, and I do concur with the information, I was actually a little bit less than what they got, but when you factor in the cost for the Edison tariffs, it's 30% right off the top on what they charge. And that's just because they can, because of the development project. So as far as having this in place, I think it was worked out very well that the information in there gives you the important allowing decision to do that. Otherwise, it is just a black and white type thing. I'd be happy to go back and look at the information, the language within the ordinance with the city attorney's office and the city manager's office, see what could be fine-tuned. If there's information that you may have that you'd like us to look at, I'd be happy to do that.
I'm asking because I want to try to make it easier for staff to be able to make some decisions, to be able to get businesses open. You know what I mean? It seems to me that with Edison having a 30% tax, if you will, fee added to undergrounding projects, it sounds to me like Edison really doesn't care to underground anything. They'd rather have their wires above ground.
Easier for them to visualize and maintain.
They'll tell you they like having it underground as long as somebody else is paying for it.
So, and I think, the habit burner, right? They paid fees in lieu of, and that was an old property, and they paid the fees. Right, and so we have all these...
if you look at... I'm trying to think of the number of times we've actually waived this.
Last month.
Yeah, but before that...
Well, we haven't had any development happening.
Look, there you go. Look at
And
that.
then it goes, what about the owner of the Jersey Mike's owner?
you know, they probably paid, it's already developed, but it's a newer place, and they paid to have their stuff in lieu of, you know, or they underground it. I don't think they did. You know?
I honestly don't know.
And it's out. Yeah.
I think Councilmember Purcell brought up a good point, and it was kind of timely that we talked about the building code update tonight too, and the council effectuated those changes because we spent a considerable amount of time going through that. And one of the big themes that I heard from the council was what can we do to help development, encourage development, and really be a partner with individuals that want to enhance our community. And that's why we made such an aggressive approach to try and get this as soon as possible, knowing that, you know, they've got to make a decision sooner rather than later. And so for us, we felt that it was really important to bring this opportunity to the council and have the council take the action on that. But you're exactly right. It does create some challenges for staff because we reference the code and, you know, it's built that way. And I can say that in 2017, it was built a lot worse. Today, it's been refined a little bit and provides that option for applicants to come in and request that from the council. So I think it is a bit of an improvement. It's not the perfect solution, but, you know, taking a page out of what you've stated in terms of being mindful of what our projects or who's looking to invest in our community. I think this is that prime opportunity to continue moving us forward to the next level. And I think that because we are seeing a lot of development in the last 6 months, you saw the presentation tonight. Now, these are the types of things that we're bringing forward to the council because, you know, there's a lot of interest right now, and, you know, striking while the iron is hot is very good for us.
I think for me, you know, I agree with the comments of my colleagues. I understand staff's predicament on this, and I certainly don't want to unnecessarily stand in the way of a business expansion opportunity. I think what it comes down to for me is I understand that it may be cumbersome to have to bring these underground waiver requests to council, but I think that's exactly what it's set up to do, so that we can evaluate the pros and cons and what's the return for the investment if we decide to grant a waiver. In some cases, it may make perfectly good sense to decline it. In other cases, it may make perfectly good sense to approve it. In this situation, I guess what comes down to for me is we've got a business that made a conscious decision to locate and operate in our city. They have an opportunity to grow their business and expand, and I think it's an ideal location because the regular clientele know where they are, and they're going to be just probably a 7-iron shot away from where they currently are. And the, well, 7-iron for somebody, maybe a driver for others, but the fact of the matter is that it's an opportunity for them to grow their business, and I've often wondered when I see their probably regular customers pulling in there with pickup trucks towing a boat, trying to negotiate that parking lot in there, it's not desirable. And to be able to allow them to expand and provide expanded service, I think it's good for them, it's good for the community. So for me, the pros and cons, I understand the issues that have been addressed, and I'm not negating those. I just think for me the overwhelming driving force is to be pro-business on this.
Mayor, if I could add to, the applicants are here tonight, so however you want to take the commentary, I think they would like to speak on this item. However you want to take that, Mayor, they are here.
I'm certainly open to, if the applicant would like to address council, please do.
evening, Mayor and council members and staff, and I appreciate you taking the time and listening. And again, it's been a long discussion, so I'm not going to basically rehash everything we talked about, but I did want to make a comment that, last chance bait and tackle, last chance performance marine has been in long standings with the city of Hemet. And as we addressed in the letter, when we started this search, and again, COVID has affected us in different manners, and when we were approached by our current landlord and said that unfortunately we're not going to be able to re-up your lease. Most of you know where we're located at currently. Unfortunately, RTA is going to have to take their building back. So that put us in a sticky situation. When we started looking around and so forth, and we did look at surrounding cities, and again, City of Hemet staff, I can't say enough how excellent they've handled this whole situation. So I want to go on record to thank the staff because they've done a great job. But as we went around and searched different surrounding cities and so forth, one of the things that really stood out to us and I apologize, my name is Dan Merchant, I'm one of the owners, and the other owners are back in the back. My wife, Megan, in the very far corner. I would consider my best friends in life, also my business partners, Lynn Peterson, and then Mike Peterson as well. I won't bore you with our story, but basically we've been in the fishing industry for many, many years, all of us, and this is our dream. And when we started this, me and Megan actually runs the tackle store. Lynn runs the financing portion of the boat shop. Mike runs the sales, and of course you can see me. I run the service side. So, again, at the end of the day, we wanted to develop something because in the fishing world and in the boating industry, there's not a lot of choice for those of you who are involved in boating. It's not like car dealerships or Firestones, and my glasses keep fogging up. Thanks for taking it off. Thanks. So again, it's not like a Firestone or a Goodyear where you can pull on every corner. So boating world is, I was a boater long before I was a boat shop owner. And one of the things that we decided as a group is when we started this business is we needed to build a business that we treat our customers the way we wanted to be treated. With respect, dignity, obviously give the customer choice and so forth. So we started this journey actually in a pretty tough time. There was a lot of our friends that said, you're out of your mind. I mean, it was a very tough economy, 10 years ago. And we survived. And we survived because of the support we got from our customers as well as the community. So as we went out and obviously did this, and we've obviously continued to grow, we're very fortunate. We went through some tough times. We went through times when Diamond Valley was closed, as we all know. And we had to strengthen another muscle. So we actually got stronger in saltwater, which brought more customer and more revenue to our stores. So fast forward, we actually, as we were out looking in the towns and doing our research, one of the things that we kept coming back to ourselves with is we are known as the boat shop that's in Hemet. We are known as the tackle store that is in Hemet. Yes, our name says Last Chance, but really most of the customers, if not all of our customers, refer to us as the tackle and boat store in Hemet, California. So we really came to the conclusion Hemet's where we need to be. And as we sat down and we put a budget together for this building project and started looking around, it just basically was a perfect location for us because it wasn't too far away. And the other thing that as we put the budget together, we had a budget in mind like most of us. And then we put pen to paper and started getting people, and that budget escalated really quick. And unfortunately, it escalated because of COVID. Construction costs are going through the roof. I mean, big time. So needless to say, what we ended up doing is we went out. We've spent a lot of money up to this point with development. We went out, and not only did we want to stay in Hemet, we wanted to hire folks that worked in Hemet to obviously develop this project for us. So we went out and hired the engineer. Blaine, that's here in Hemet. Russell is here. It was our architect. He's here in Hemet. So we've actually wanted to support the locals as well. So as we put this together and we started going through the development process, this underlying electrical. And unfortunately to say, I have many, many friends that are linesmen. And I just started having conversation with them, and we started putting pen to paper, and we said, if this actually happens, unfortunately, this will put a financial hardship on this project. And unfortunately, this project will be dead. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, unfortunately. I can't sugarcoat it. There's just nothing in the budget. I mean, we've already, for our hard cost alone in the budget, we're already tapping on it just because, again, of the escalating construction costs, just from the time we started this project. We went out and we've already spent over $100,000 just in architectural engineering, environmental studies. We've done everything. We've teed this thing up pretty good. And then when this came above, it sort of took the wind out of the sail a little bit. So really, this is very, very critical to us. Our livelihoods depend on it. We've pretty much put everything on the line to do this. And we really, really want to stay in Hemet at the end of the day. And again, like I said, Hemet has been very good to us. Again, it's a very good centralized location. I'm excited. I got really excited standing outside the door tonight and seeing all those projects come up and seeing your name listed on it. It's pretty cool. I mean, we would have never dreamed that. I mean, the tackle store's been around in Hemet since 1996. I mean, so, again, I want to thank you for your time and your consideration, but again, it's a tough decision. It's a tough decision for us because if this doesn't happen, we just don't see this project moving forward, unfortunately. So, again, I want to thank you for your time.
Dan, thank you for your comments and sharing a bit about what motivated you to make the decisions you did.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other?
It's a perfect location, close
is.
to where they're at, and at least
And I know when this was first, when RTA came to the conclusion that they needed that corner of their property back, Mr. Rubio was very upset, and he said, "I have bad news for you, Linda." And I said, "Then you better find some place to go, because we don't want to lose an existing business." I don't know if they were helpful in any way, but I know he was very concerned because you were good on that corner. And I just have one question that you can either nod your head or yes or no. Do you ever consider selling Duffy's?
I'm sorry?
Do you ever consider selling Duffy's electric boats?
We've talked about it. I mean, actually, we've got some things on the business model and business plan right now. We're going to add a couple more lineups of our boats. But we really can't go out and make that commitment with all the other financial things on our books right now. And then more importantly, are we going to have a home?
There you go. Well, we'll look forward to that. Thank you.
Well, as I said, for me, this is a classic example of a local business wanting to support other local businesses in their planning and development, and wanting to make the conscious decision to stay in Hemet for all the right reasons. So, if there's no more questions, I'm ready to entertain a motion on this item.
I'll move.
I think we'll all move approval.
I'll move to approve. But if Linda beat me to it, I'll second it. And I hope that this will get you through and there won't be another stumbling block to get you up and open for business on your new location.
Okay, so I first heard the motion to approve from Mayor Pro Tem, and a second from Councilmember Percival. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that motion passes unanimously. Good luck. Okay, thank you, staff, for all of your work on that, too. Item 15D is our coronavirus update. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I think one of the most notable updates that wasn't included here was the fact that we did progress into the next tier. And so I did send an email to the council earlier today stating that we're working on reopening in some limited capacity starting next week. And so we'll be working on the information that we'll put out to the community, and then also make sure that all the PPE, all the other requirements that we need to adhere to are met, and that we're following those guidelines that keep our employees safe, and then also to our businesses safe as well. We did have a discussion about the opportunity to expand gymnasiums and outdoors, and so that's some of the major updates that we've had with COVID. With that, Mayor, that concludes the report that I have for council.
Okay, thank you very much. Definitely got good news from the county level today, so we hope we can continue moving forward and not 2 steps forward and 3 steps back again.
on the county, they 3.18 on their agenda, which was Supervisor Hewitt's motion to basically open everything. They had extended conversation on that, actually recessed a couple times because the audience got a little rowdy. But they got through it. It was approved on a 3-2 vote with several amendments, and I was not clear on what the amendments were. But you might check with the county, and I think they're bringing it back in there's some time frame that staff has to work on something, and it's like 2 weeks. Because they said, I know Karen, Supervisor Spiegel said, I will not wait 30 days for this to happen, bring it back sooner than that. So again, I don't know what the amendments were attached to that, but it did pass on a 3-2 vote.
That was to open up fully?
Yes. With amendments.
So when are they opening up for?
With amendments. The amendments are, I think, the operative thing in this that they couldn't all agree on. So whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be in print tomorrow.
Okay. Well, this is just an update, doesn't require any council action, so thank you for that. And if you learn anything from the county, just shoot us an email, please. On the item 16, council and staff reports. Councilmember Meyer.
I don't have any reports.
Councilmember Percival.
Yeah, we had RCA meeting last week, or this past week. Yeah, last week. And I do have, let me pull it up here real quick, the species of the month is the California Orcut grass. And grass, yes, grass, species, grass. It's a plant, not an animal, plant this time.
Is it endangered?
It's annual grass native to California and Baja California, state and federally endangered species. Plant grows from 5 to 15 centimeters tall, with small flowers clustered at the tips of the plant, occur in wetlands and vernal pools. So they haven't found any specifically in our vernal pools here in Hemet, but they did say that there's some closer to Menifee.
Because the fairies trying to eat them.
Probably. Threats to this species include habitat loss and degradation, dewatering, off-road vehicles. So I don't think we have an off-road vehicle problem in our vernal pool areas and the areas where this potentially, but the California Orcut grass was the species of the month from RCA.
That was the exciting update.
That's all I got.
Approach improvement.
I have 2 updates. One is from the League of California Cities, and the conference is coming up in October, whatever. The Governance, Transparency, and Labor Relations Policy Committee and Public Safety Policy Committees are bringing forth a resolution regarding a resolution of the General Assembly of the League of California Cities calling for an amendment of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996 to require social media companies to remove materials which promote criminal activities. And this is, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of conversation on this. And since you two are the delegates, right? Voting people, you might, whoever is going to be there and deal with that, talk with the police chief, our police chief first, and get his take on that, whether or not it actually comes to a resolution that then comes to the floor of the assembly is questionable, because I don't know that those 2 committees can come up with a document that they're in agreement, and based on the two reports that I read. And my other one is Planning Commission. The second meeting of the month approved a general plan amendment to increase the maximum FAR, the floor area ratio, in buildings from 0.4 to 1, and also approved a general plan zoning ordinance amendment. And I can only assume that those two items will be coming before the council sometime in the not too distant future for council to approve two general plan amendments. And that's all I have.
Okay, the only thing I have to share is on the Western Community Energy front. They are continuing to work with Edison to try to get the issues resolved with some of the billing. They're still having some probably software problems getting the integration of, so that people can clearly see what their generation costs are as compared to the distribution costs. So I get a few phone calls from people inquiring about that, and it's still being worked on through Edison. One of the things that WCE is working diligently on is, and it's probably not too far off in the future, is that they'll have the ability for WCE customers to get real-time status information on what their costs are, and a clear comparison of the generation costs, and so they can corroborate the claim of 2% or better cost savings. So that's continues to be in the works, and WCE is providing bi-weekly updates now to the board members. So anything new comes along, I'll be happy to share. Ad-hoc committee reports. Florida Avenue. Council protocols. I'm still working on collating the notes that Lyndon and I took when we went through the document, the draft document. So I'll be creating, in the process of creating, the subsequent draft document that hopefully we'll be sending to the city attorney for review. City manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any updates. They were provided with the earlier ones, but I do have a comment. If I look at the future agenda items, I just want to remind the council we talked about number 13 in the work study, so I didn't want anybody to forget that. That's all, Mayor.
So do we have to vote to take that off? Make a motion to remove number 13, the 2020 Christmas parade route.
Okay, have a motion and a second to remove item 13. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. I'm here, and I also vote yes. That passes unanimously. We can delete item 13. And if there is nothing else, we move on to item 18, adjournment. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned to our next council meeting on October 13th. Thank you all very much.